It's Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
.06 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It is a Monday. Rinse and repeat. Here we go.
Today's show is sponsored by Earwax Colored Hearing Aids. The perfect camouflage for hearing better.
And if you like, we can get you some that even smell like earwax. Yum.
Warning, this show contains reference to guns, liberty, limited government, low taxation, the cult of climate change, free thinking, cigar smoking, short people, rubber chickens, Karen's bureaucracy, liberal buzzwords, tour runs, traffic, toilets, terrible jokes, and more. No apologies will be issued. Guest callers may express any opinion they want without fear of being canceled. Unless you're a loudmouth jerk like Dave, then Glenn will hang up on you. Strap in, hold on to your coffee, and feel free to participate.
This disclaimer does not refer to every person named Dave. Just one particular Dave from San Francisco. We know a lot of Daves. They call this show all the time, and they're great people. So don't call this program and complain that we use your name. That would be a real Dave. Oops. Dave moved Dave. I clicked that off too early. All right, so going to start today with just some updates on the fires that are out there. And then there's some good news and not good news, but let's take a look at all of it. The biggest one, which was the house draw fire, and that's between Casey and Buffalo. That sucker finally, they got it contained. As you were enjoying your weekend, firefighters were out there getting this thing contained. 88% contained. And as you know, to contain a fire is the main purpose in defeating the fire. Just so it's going to burn what's already burning, and let it. Don't even try to bother to put that out. Let it burn itself out. It's just too much effort, and in fact, an impossible effort at times to put the actual fire out. But what they will do is prevent it from going outside of where it already is. And so that's containment, 88% contained. Total acreage burned so far, 174,702. That's a lot. Listening to people who are from that area, there's some ranches, not a huge population out there, but there's ranches out there and animals. And the livestock, most of it they've been able to get it to different places like fairgrounds and other places where they're able to take livestock and take care of them. So a lot of that's been handled as well. As far as, I haven't heard about anybody getting hurt, but as far as buildings and so on, we have to add up the cost at some point, and that'll come later. Let's see, over by Gillette, to the west of Gillette, is the Flat Rock fire. That's 52,599 acres, 35% contained. So they made some progress on that during the course of the weekend. Also, to the north of Gillette is the Constitution fire, 24,594 acres burned, 28% contained. And let me see, Bertha Hill. Damn it, Bertha. That's still a small one, 509 acres. Well, I say small, 509 acres. By comparison, 100% contained. Now, here's what kind of got out of control. Oh, by the way, north of Buffalo, there's a wildfire that burned 30 acres, and no information on how much is contained. Just a little north of Buffalo, right up the interstate there. All right. During the course of the weekend, there's a fire that was on the Wyoming-Montana border, and it was a small one. Remington incident, it was what they were calling that. And so they were so busy with the big fires, they weren't paying attention to that little guy because it was a little fire that could be easily handled. All of a sudden, though, the winds kick up, and that sucker just went way out of control and moved high up into Montana. Total acreage burned, 196,307 acres. That makes it bigger than the house draw fire. And that just suddenly happened. The winds kick up and boom, it's out of control. Really took the firefighters by surprise. Currently 0% contained. There's a lot to work with. There's also more in Montana. let's see, if we head down south of Douglas and let's say west of Guernsey, between Guernsey and Torrington, there's the 387 incident fire, the Friday draw fire, and these are smaller ones, and the Little Bates incident, and all of those are somewhere between like 500 acres or so, somewhere in that area. Further south of that, what did I say? I'm sorry. Those ones are north of Casper. All right. If we head from south of Casper, even on Casper Mountain, on the west side of Casper Mountain, there's a small wildfire there, very tiny. Between Casper and Douglas, up in the Laramie Range, there's a couple of fires up there that are burning. They're over 1,000 acres, almost 2,000 acres. As we get, let's see, Glendale State Park, let's head west of there. Cedar Top incident, Shiprock incident, and Whitaker's Hill. Those are the main ones. There's even some more for the folks over in Torrington, Bayou, west of Rawlins. Those are much smaller fires. The big ones, let me go to the western side of the state. So I was over in Lander and up in Riverton this weekend. I knew that on Sunday, because of the wind direction, it was going to get really smoky in Riverton, and it did. I mean, watering eyes kind of smoky. That's because there are fires. The Togety Pass is open right now. Fish Creek Fire, which is right by Togety Pass, over 11,000 acres, 23% contained, right next to Togety Pass. Also up in those mountains, Lands Creek Fire, over 700 acres, 90% contained, and the Slide Lake Incident wildfire. I don't have any acreage on that, but those are up in that mountain range there. So that's why I knew, and there's a couple more off to the west. There's even one to the west of Cody in the Shoshone National Forest. So in looking at all of what's burning here, there's quite a bit going on, but the big ones are, let's see, to the east side of Buffalo and up in the Sheridan area as well. Those are the ones that have been really out of control for quite a while, and firefighters have been working on. Yeah, there was a little bit of rain that got into the area over the weekend, just a little bit of rain. Don't think it really helped anything. Might be a little bit more today. That could get into the area. The wind continues to push all that smoke northward. So for those people that are south of KC, lucky you. Because you remember what it was like when the wind was coming from the north heading back down south. That got really nasty for a while there, but all the smoke is being blown northward, not helping the people in Montana much, but keeping much of Wyoming smoke-free during all of that. We hit a couple of days where it really gets dry as far as the air is concerned, and then things start to get moist again with maybe a chance of some thunderstorms coming in and helping us out. Meantime, a lot of damage has been done, so I'll come back with a look at what kind of damage we're talking about and what we do know about it. And God bless all those firefighters out there. In fact, there are a lot of volunteer fire departments from all around, even the smallest towns have been out there, just riding through the prairie, spraying down anything they can. Airplanes, aircraft of all sorts, mostly coming out of Casper, have been helping out. But then also, it got bad enough in some areas, like with that house draw fire, for example. Anybody, or up near Gillette, anybody who's got some big equipment, and if you're talking ranchers, there's a lot of people with big equipment. Anybody that can man equipment has been out there trying to draw fire lines out in the prairie, which has been a lot of help. Imagine the amount of fuel we've been using on that, too. 6:15 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Got something to say? Chat him on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app or call 888-97-WOODS.
6:22 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So I'm starting this morning by getting everybody up to date on what the fires are doing out there and what the numbers look like right now. Good to see that the house draw fire is 88% contained, but the one that's right up to the east of Sheridan, right on the Montana border, which is bigger than the house draw fire, that happened over the weekend, is 0% contained. Most of the ones in Wyoming, though, there's some good containment going on. So I was asked this weekend, what resources are we bringing in to fight all of this? A lot. Here's just some of it. Wyoming State Forestry helicopters and helitack fighters, 2 single-engine air tankers. I've seen those. Those things are basically they're what you see as crop dusters, but they're meant for firefighting. And what they do is just gather up water, and in most cases, and they go after those areas where the fire has jumped the line and is trying to spread out from there. So they go pinpoint little sites and just bomb them with water. Then there's Wyoming Smoke Busters, numerous state staff providing operational support. Let's see, Wyoming is in cooperation with the U.S. Forest Service and Bureau of Land Management that are providing very large air tankers. And I've seen those at the Casper and Natrona County Airport. These are big planes. I mean, big planes. Multi-engine jet. And those are the ones you see firing or dropping the huge amounts of fire retardant in areas. So they can carry a lot and drop a whole lot in a very short period of time right where it's needed. And then from the very large air tankers to the large air tankers to the single-engine air tankers to the scooper planes. Scooper planes are always fun. As they head, you've seen them in videos. They head out to the reservoirs. They basically skim across the water, open up baffles, fill up, head back to the fire, dump all of that, go back, do it again. And see, on the ground, Wyoming is coordinating with local fire districts. As I mentioned, it's all hands on deck. Every agency that's available to head out with whatever they have is out there. But also, there's a lot of just farmers, ranchers out there with whatever equipment they have, just trying to cut fire lines across the prairie. See, Wyoming has also activated the state-to-state forest compact agreement to get help from other states across the Rocky Mountain area. So we do have deals with other states if something like this happens. Hey, come help. We need everybody. Question was, why hasn't the National Guard been activated? So the National Guard is standing ready to assist any county, state, wherever, anytime they're asked to come in. Due to federal restrictions, the story says here, all federal, state, and county firefighting resources must be exhausted. So in other words, before you call in the National Guard. So in other words, when we've done everything and used up pretty much everything we have, and we're still losing, then call in the National Guard. They are a last-ditch effort. They're held in reserve. If they think we can handle it ourselves, they'll wait. But if it's getting to the point that there's just no way and we're running out of resources, yes, they'll come in. So why so difficult to contain? Well, last year, and you know about this, springtime was great, and so was summer. In fact, the prairie stayed green almost all the way up through the fall. It's gorgeous out there. But as so many of you even had this conversation, that means, of course, that's going to get really thick out there, and eventually during the next year, which is dry, which is this year, that stuff is just dead and laying there waiting for that lightning strike to spark it up. That's why that's been so hard to contain, because there's so much to burn out there. There is good news with all of this. And by the way, it does say, and I'll tell you what the good news is in just a minute. So how does it compare to fires from other years? The story says, currently Wyoming is experiencing an average number of wildfires, but above average number of acreage. So in other words, the number of fires we have, we get fires every year. We're a prairie state mostly. So we get fires every single year. We just know that. So the number of fires is the same. But how much fuel they have to burn, that's what's different. And that's why they've gotten so big. Now, here's the good news. And we've talked about this before. When we get around to next spring, late next spring, go to those same areas that were burned and have a look. Especially if we get enough rain, snow and rain. Watch what happens. Those of you who lived here your whole lives, you've seen this, you know. It's going to be just absolutely stunningly beautiful out there as all of this comes back. Fire can be very good, especially for a prairie, but anywhere, but especially a prairie. as a lot of that stuff gets burnt off in order to clear. Even invasive species die off in something like this. So for those of you who want to get rid of those invasive species out there, it's happening right now. A lot of them are just going to go away. And the stuff that's meant to be out here that loves the fire is going to come on back. And then important minerals and other things get released into the air and the soil, especially, yes, things like CO2 and even just carbon in general. But CO2 is released into the air and we get more carbon into the soil. But there's also other minerals and so on that come out of fire like this, which helps the soil to get very fertile for the next growing season. So it's not just spring of next year, late spring of next year. Take a drive out to those areas that were affected by the fire and look what happens as all of this comes back. In the short run, this is a lot of work to go through. In the long run, though, this is nothing but good for those areas. Coming up on 6:30, local news coming your way after local news update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97 WOODS. Bit on the cool side today. That's also good for those fires. Wake up, Wyoming.
No, God, please, no, no!
Oh, yeah. Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
6:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. I'm going to get away from, I'll go back and update everybody on the fire situation a little bit more as the morning goes on. As I get more information, I think I've given you pretty much everything I have right now. So I came across this morning I guess it's an advertisement. It was on my social media. It was for maple jerky, but it doesn't say beef jerky. Now, a lot of people out there like all sorts of different kinds of jerky. It's really good stuff. I've always had a hard time, as much as I love the flavor of it, just the constant chew is what always got me. I like it, but I don't like the fact that I've got it. It's so hard to tear off and chew on the thing. Unless there's been a few brands I've tried that it actually is not that hard, and it's still supposed to be beef jerky. And I've seen turkey jerky and jerky made out of all sorts of other different kinds of meats. And if done well, seasoned well, it's really good stuff. Well, I was a little suspicious when I saw just maple bacon jerky, but there was this picture, and it's like a drawing of a woman on the front of it. And she looks she looks a little gaunt. I'm thin, a little too much. She needs to do something with her hair. It's just stringy. And this is a drawing of her. And her expression looks almost a little bit sad and depressed, especially the eyes. And then I read on the package, Louisville vegan jerky. Oh, no wonder she looks so gaunt and stringy-haired and lifeless and depressed, because it's vegan maple bacon jerky. So which I would protest if I was someone in the jerky business. She can't claim that it's bacon. She could say bacon flavored, but she can't say it's bacon if it's vegan. And then there's the fact that she just looks so, again, like a vegan. I've met many vegans over my lifetime, and they just don't look healthy to me. And she looks so depressed. Now, when I saw a picture of this, I saw someone had also made a meme out of it. And the meme is, I would look that sad too if I ate vegan jerky. Yeah. I still want to know, is somebody going to get on her case for saying that it's maple bacon instead of maple bacon flavored? Because you can't say that's real. In fact, for those people who've been creating the Impossible Burger that's fake meat, those who produce real meat have been saying you cannot say that this is meat. Like, for example, if you want to have almond milk, you can't call it milk because it's not milk. It's something else coming from almonds, but it's definitely not milk. So we can't say that this is, I wonder, I guess you could still call it jerky, but you can't say that it's bacon. It would have to be bacon flavored. I get all of my meat from a completely different source.
Well, there's so much waste in the world, and finally it dawned on us, why go to the grocery store when we've got this portal in the backyard that's constantly spewing raw meat?
As soon as the meat comes flying out of the portal, we clean it, wait for it to stop ringing, and then we cook it.
Ever since the portal opened up and started spraying meat all over our backyard, we've gotten way more into cooking than we were before.
We make all kinds of meals with the portal meat. Gourmet meatballs, carne asada. Burgers are probably our favorite. When we used to get the meat from the grocery store, we never knew where it was coming from. It's really reassuring to know that the meat we eat now comes straight from the portal in our own backyard. No GMOs, no preservatives, no bones whatsoever. Just raw, fresh meat from an unidentifiable animal, and so much blood. All right, who's hungry?
The portal meat is fresh, it makes us dream in black and white, and it tastes great. And any meat we don't end up eating ourselves, we just chuck back into the portal. We're pretty much 100% waste-free now.
Yeah, just about.
Feels great. Cheers.
Cheers.
So, back to what we can actually call this. If this is supposed to be vegan jerky and it's supposed to be maple bacon flavored, she can't say that it's bacon jerky like she is. She would have to go back. Somebody needs to file a suit against her. You're going to have to say bacon flavored. Much like, again, any milk that's made from nuts or trees or whatever, you can't call that milk. It's something else because there's no udders on a walnut, for example.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Plaza. You know me as an actress, but I'm also the co-founder of Wood Milk, the world's first and only milk made from wood. Wood Milk started with a simple idea. I saw a tree, and I asked myself, can I drink this? As it turns out, the answer is yes, if you make it into milk. Here at Wood Milk Orchards, we grow our trees the old-fashioned way, right out of the ground. And we're certain our eco-friendly, artisanal, free-range wood milk will be the only milk you'll want to drink for the rest of your life. Why? Because you're thirsty. And because you want it. Our wood milk is bottled right here in the forest, which locks in the flavors like oak, cherry, maple, and of course mahogany. And if you can't pick your favorite, that's okay, because they all taste like wood. Now let's take a look at how wood milk is born. Not born, exactly. More like squished into a slime that's legal to sell. If a tree falls in the forest, can you make milk out of it? Now it's time to enjoy the fruits of our efforts. Not fruits, wood. Is wood milk real? Absolutely not. Only real milk is real. Then what did I invest in?
Woke Radio, WOKE, the shortwave radio station that identifies as 1,000-watt FM. Because you know, we are what we feel, not we feel what we are.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
Off to the icebox we go. Frank Gambino's waiting by. A new morning donut is arrived just in time for football season as a promotion.
Oh, it's a what is it exactly?
Dr. Pepper flavored donut.
Oh, because they're big in the college football.
Yes, yeah, they are. Yeah. Well, it's not the entire donut; it's the icing on top of it.
Oh, it's just they just poured Dr. Pepper on the donut.
Well, no. It's icing.
Oh, it's icing
that tastes like Dr. Pepper on top of a donut that's already too sweet.
Okay.
I'm sure some people like that kind of stuff, but I took a look at it and go, when they have those donuts downstairs for us now and then and has like piles of icing on top, I take a knife and I scoop all of that icing off and I just
You're missing the best part. That is the stuff that will get you going.
They'll get you going. And then you fall asleep in your office just a little while later.
And yeah, that's what donuts are for.
That's the whole point of it.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So, Doctor, what's next, Glenn? I mean, are they going to throw,
They'll come up with
Pepsi, Coke,
something.
any, Mountain Dew donuts?
Just when you finally look at it and go, there's no way they can possibly get dumber than this, Frank, they will. I swear.
It happens. High school football starts this week in the 4A ranks statewide. The first week schedule. All these games start at 6 o'clock on Friday. Cheyenne Central will be at Rock Springs. Laramie will be over at Cheyenne East. Thunder Basin will be in Casper to take on the Trona. Kelly Walsh hits the road for Gillette to meet Campbell County. And Cheyenne South will be at Sheridan. Our very first YO Preps media poll for high school football is out. And in Class 4A, Sheridan, the defending champions, the preseason number 1. East 2nd, Campbell County 3rd, and the Trona 4th, and Thunder Basin 5th. Defending champion Star Valley, the preseason number 1 in 3A, followed by Cody, Powell, Douglas, and Riverton, and Buffalo also tied for 5th. And Bighorn is the preseason number 1 in Class 2A, followed by Lovell, Mountain View, Worland, Cokeville, and Lyman. And in 1A 9-man, the preseason number 1 is Lingle, Fort Laramie, followed by Big Piney, Rocky Mountain 3, Pine Bluffs 4, and Southeast 5. And in 1A 6-man, defending champion Burlington is the preseason number 1, Little Snake River 2nd, Riverside 3rd, and Campman 4th, and Casper Christian 5th. Wyoming Cowboy football team starts the season this Saturday on the road at Arizona State. Cowboys are 6.5-point underdogs, but they certainly have enough returning starters to make this a very competitive game. Arizona State was a measly 3-9 last year and 2-7 in the Pac-12. Now they're over in the Big 12, and the Cowboys were 9-4 a year ago and 9-4 overall and 5-3 in league play. Cowboys have some changes in the way they're going to move the ball offensively. We'll see how that goes. That's an 8:30 kickoff from Tempe on Saturday. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. Preseason NFL football, the Denver Broncos over Arizona yesterday 38-12. The Broncos did sit their starting quarterback Bo Nix. Zach Wilson was in there at quarterback. He was 16 of 25 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos will open up the season at Seattle on September the 8th.
So how do you think UW is going to do?
I think 6 or 7 wins.
Okay.
It maybe 8 if they get to a bowl game.
No, I mean this first game.
I don't see any. I don't predict first games because I don't think anybody really knows. Exactly.
Okay. Right.
Play that first because your most improvement in football is from the first game to the second game.
So let me see if I understand you. You do the first game to find out what you're doing right and wrong.
Correct.
Okay. And then you prepare for the rest of the season from there.
Yes.
Does this first game count?
Oh, it does.
It does, big time.
Oh, yeah,
okay.
yeah. So it's not like an exhibition here. And there are these big college football programs. They're playing big games right off the bat that can figure out if they're going to be in this 12-team playoff.
Okay.
So the answer is you better be ready, but you don't really know exactly what they're going to do until you actually hit somebody with a different color uniform.
Okay. This is game on. Here we
go.
Game on. All right. Thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. We're going to roll into news time after that. I do have, again, another update on the fire situation, but also Wyoming is joining 16 other states suing over the Biden administration plan for amnesty for illegal aliens. We'll talk about that next hour. 888-97 Woods, phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Wake Up Wyoming.
Hate it.
.06 the time. It's Monday. It's rinse and repeat.
Today's show is sponsored by Earwax Colored Hearing Aids. The perfect camouflage for hearing better.
And if you like, we can get earwax scented at the same time. Okay. Paul, you and I got into a conversation, and I'm going to finish. But on the air, because I think we need to drag this out as much as we can. Paul and Casper knows what I'm saying. He's texting me on the Wake Up Wyoming app, which, by the way, you can do too when I'm on the air. Just download the Wake Up Wyoming app. It's free. And then on the toolbar across the middle, you can just hit the chat option and send me text messages, and I'll go ahead and answer you both on and off the air. For those people who are involved still in fires, I gave an update the first hour of the program. I will do that again this hour, and I'll keep offering updates throughout the morning and the week until this is all over. As often as I get new information, I'll keep offering you guys updates, because we all understand what you're going through. So the more information, the better. And also for those people who are fighting those fires. So I will get to that in just a moment. Now, this is what I brought up last hour. There is a package of jerky, which right away some people go, and this is maple bacon jerky. Sounds good, right? Except it says that it's from St. Louis. Well, okay. And it's vegan jerky, which is why I say they can't say bacon. They would have to say bacon flavored, because that's not real bacon. But it's vegan jerky. And there's a very good drawing of the lady whose company this is. It's supposed to be, was it Paulette's, I think it is. And she looks, in their drawing, a little bit gaunt and too thin, like a vegan is. Stringy hair. Again, not a very healthy look. And she also looks just sad, almost, with her expression, including those sunken, sad eyes like you see in most vegans. So I would look that sad, too, if I was eating vegan jerky. So then, as I was talking about this, I decided to talk about other things that are fake. Like, for example, if you go to buy, you can't say this is vegan bacon jerky because, well, it's bacon flavored. It's not real bacon. And the people who sell real milk, produce and market real milk, have sued over companies calling, let's say, different kinds of nut milk, milk, because it's not. It's not actually milk. It's got to be something else. So if you're making milk out of pecans or whatever, that can't be called milk because you're not milking it like real milk. It's got to be called something else. In which case, I'm going to play it one more time just so everybody can hear it. Because there's an important point to be made here, as Paul pointed out.
Hi, I'm Aubrey Plaza. You know me as an actress, but I'm also the co-founder of Wood Milk, the world's first and only milk made from wood. Wood Milk started with a simple idea. I saw a tree, and I asked myself, can I drink this? As it turns out, the answer is yes, if you make it into milk. Here at Wood Milk Orchards, we grow our trees the old-fashioned way, right out of the ground. And we're certain our eco-friendly, artisanal, free-range wood milk will be the only milk you'll want to drink for the rest of your life. Why? Because you're thirsty. And because you want it. Our wood milk is bottled right here in the forest, which locks in the flavors like oak, cherry, maple, and of course mahogany. And if you can't pick your favorite, that's okay, because they all taste like wood. Now let's take a look at how wood milk is born. Not born, exactly. More like squished into a slime that's legal to sell. If a tree falls in the forest, can you make milk out of it? Now it's time to enjoy the fruits of our efforts. Not fruits, wood. Is wood milk real? Absolutely not. Only real milk is real. Then what did I invest in?
Okay, so Red sent me a text. Apparently the lady Aubrey Plaza is the actress's name, who did the Wood Milk commercial got a ton of flack from vegans, which I think she probably laughed. With her personality, she laughed it off. She didn't really care. The conversation I got into with Paul had to do with, well, would tree huggers actually go for this? And my answer is, look, as long as you use the right buzzwords, there are some people who would. You got to tell them that they're saving the planet, that it's sustainable. You see where I'm going with this? If you use the right buzzwords, these people will do anything. They'll drink anything. They'll eat anything live any lifestyle. I'm talking about the extremists here. Just as long as you use the right virtue signaling buzzwords, and they'll do it. So go ahead and tell everybody this is mahogany milk. I don't know how you milk a mahogany tree, but it's mahogany milk. And so, yeah, you drink it, you put it on your cereal, you drink it like regular milk. It's fine, it's good, because you do this, and it's a sustainable way to save the planet. And any other kind of buzzword that you can throw in to make these people think that they're doing something good. And they will go ahead and do it. Now, there's not a whole lot of people out there who will fall for this, but some will. There's many more people who will claim that they are, but they don't, because they want to appear as if they're doing the right virtuous thing to save the planet. But, I mean, there have been vegans out there, self-proclaimed vegans, who have been caught many times falling off the wagon, if you will, and having a burger or something like that because they couldn't take it anymore. So there's those people who it's a lot like those people who claim to be green activists, and yet they fly all over the place on jets and they drive big SUVs and live in huge homes. And yet they want a virtue signal that they're doing the right thing. There's those people. And then there's the very, very, very tiny minority of people who actually live that lifestyle. Now, those are the people that are fun to watch because they will kill themselves in the dumbest possible way. Now, back to the whole nut milk thing.
Milking a 600-kilogram Holstein, now that's easy. Milking a 1-gram almond, that's hard. Tiny little udders, tiny. Picture of my grandfather in World War II. When he got back from the war, he started this here nut milkery, and I'm third-generation nut milker now, and I love what I do. There's so much confusion in city folk these days. They're talking about nuts don't lactate, nuts don't have nipples. I'll show you a nut nipple. So this is a tandem nut milker. It milks 2 nuts at a time. It's comfortable for them. They want to be milked. You'll never see a happier nut than a freshly milked nut. And, you can hear them a little bit. If you listen, you hear that chirping? That's a happy nut. Back in the old days, we used to train gerbils to milk the nuts, but they would eat some of our herd, and it wasn't ideal. So these dual nut milkers have really changed the game. I know exactly how many we got. We got 564 of these running 24/7. It's quite the operation. So it takes about 200 almonds to get a half gallon of almond milk. All our almonds are fully organic, grass-fed. Oh, this will last them a good month, I'd say. All these ones you see here, these are females. Now, the ones you see in the store, those are all males. They have no udder at all. And most people go their whole lives and see nothing but a male almond because, well, we don't let the females off the farm. You know, it's a hard job, but I'm living the dream, and nothing makes me happier than knowing that my hard work went into making this nut milk happen. I wouldn't do anything else.
You can't control how good a day you're going to have, but you can control how weird a day everybody else has. Be the weirdest, most confusing, unhinged part of everybody's day.
Admit it, you were hoping somebody would say that. Download the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. Listen anywhere and chat live with Glenn during the show on AM 1030 K2 Radio.
7:20 is the time to Wake Up Wyoming. So, the whole nut milk thing that I was talking about a little while ago. Rick from Cheyenne says, Glenn, all I have to say about this is Yule Gibbons, which, by the way, my mother read just about every single Yule Gibbons books out there. And for those who don't know, he wrote a whole bunch of books on just what's out there that's edible or usable in nature as far as plants are concerned. So no matter where you are, even if you're in a major city, there's something out there that you can go ahead and use, pull from plants and eat or use for all sorts of medicinal purposes. Big, thick, really great books. He was very popular in his time. Fire Pit Paul, that girl in your wood milk commercial is a real sap. Next time I see you, Paul, I'm going to smack you for that one. But okay, just because it was a bad joke. But the actress, her name is Aubrey Plaza, and she has been in a lot of different comedies over the years and different movies and television shows, and has she's very funny, extremely funny, but in the darkest possible way, which is why I like watching her. But okay, one more thing before I get on to the next topic. This meme keeps popping in front of me today, and I keep going past it. And finally I stopped. All right. Why am I seeing this like 100 million times today? There's the 2 astronauts that went up on the Boeing rocket with the Boeing capsule to dock with the International Space Station. And if you've heard the story, they've been stuck up there for a while because the Boeing capsule it sucks. And they're probably going to get rescued from the International Space Station from a SpaceX capsule. The only problem is everything that they have for their spacesuits, they don't connect with the SpaceX. It's Boeing versus SpaceX connectors. They'll have to work that out. But the latest is those 2 astronauts, which they'll be fine. They can stay at the space station. They're probably not going to return home till the first of the year. They're going to be up there for a while. Thanks a lot, Boeing. They're going to be up there a lot. They were supposed to be back like weeks ago. They're going to be up there until 2025. In which case, this guy writes, humanity has about 6 months to purchase 8 billion ape costumes for the ultimate prank. And I'm all on board with this. If we can, between now and by the time these 2 finally get back in months from now, they're going to be up there that long, waiting to come on down, then please, can we all just start making ape suits for the ultimate prank? All right. Wyoming is among 16 states suing, including Texas, the Biden administration to stop widespread amnesty plans for illegal immigrants. If you hadn't heard this, the Biden administration is looking to fast-track certain citizens, not all of them, but, a good number of them, as fast as they can. And, again, 16 states so far have said no. Department of Homeland Security, it's the implementation of keeping families together. And there are those people who came to this country illegally. They got married. They had an anchor baby. And those people number in the hundreds of thousands. And not all of them have anchor babies. Some of them just got married. Now, this has been a problem for many, many, many decades. The idea that you can come to America, get married, and now that you're married, you're supposed to be a citizen. That's supposed to fast-track you. So a lot of this can be illegitimate. And then what if they had a baby, right? The coalition of states argues the Biden-Harris administration is doing an end run around the law by ignoring the Constitution. Biden administration? Ignoring the Constitution? No. Violating the Administrative Procedure Act and basically circumventing existing federal law. Again, the Biden administration? Who would have thunk it? The suit, the story says, taken to the U.S. District Courts by Texas, says federal statute prohibits illegal aliens from obtaining most immigration benefits, such as permanent resident status, without first leaving the country and being admitted to re-enter and reside in the country lawfully. Instead of following current federal law programs, the program effectively provides a new pathway to a green card and eventually citizenship of more than 1.3 million illegal aliens who are unlawfully present in the United States, circumventing the process established by Congress to apply for permanent residency. An opportunity, so in other words, executive order, once again, to get around a current law. And the lawsuit says they can't do that. Biden cannot just sign an executive order to get around a current law. So here's a quote: under Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, federal government is actively working to turn the United States into a nation without borders, they say. Cannot let this happen. All right, states involved in this. So here's the list: Idaho, Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Georgia, Iowa, Kansas, Louisiana, Missouri, North Dakota, Ohio, South Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Wyoming are all of the states involved in this. The states say they will be irreparably harmed by the program, and that includes giving them Medicaid, CHIP, and other such programs that are available only to citizens, unemployment benefits, Social Security, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And we just can't possibly keep up with and afford all this. Not just as a nation, we can't afford to do all that. but as a state as well. Now, if you're not every single illegal alien that's been crossing the border all of this time, which is in the millions. No, this would be hundreds of thousands of people. And there's a process for them. There is. Yes, they came to the country illegally, but then they got jobs and they got married and they had a kid. So is there a process for them? Yes, there is, actually. And part of that process involves them leaving the country and coming back legally, but there's other things to it to make sure this is also a legitimate marriage and et cetera, et cetera. There is a process that was set up by Congress, and there's a law for this. And so what the president is trying to do is once again sign executive orders just to get around the law completely, which is what the state's objecting. But I do like the part where they're also objecting because you do this, think about what it's going to cost us, not just on the federal level, but on the state level. What exactly is this going to cost us to start taking care of quite a few of these people? This is one of the things we look out for with people entering this country. Can you support yourself? If you enter this country, if you want to be a U.S. citizen, fine, we're okay with that. But one of the things we're looking for is, do you have a means of supporting yourself without getting on the government dole? Because getting on the government dole in any way, we already have enough people on it. We can't afford to do what we're doing now. We don't need all sorts of other people coming in and adding to it. There's no way to afford all this. So that's basically what the lawsuit's about. It's in the lower court right now. We'll see how this plays out. And I would bet, I did find this on a news site that is a smaller news site. I would bet most of the major news sites just flat out ignore this story altogether because, well, we're in the middle of a presidential campaign and most of the major news organizations out there, and I have a story that shows this, shows mostly positive coverage for Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. And the vast majority of Trump coverage has been negative, so you know which way they'll go in this, right? All right. Coming up on some local business that we have to take care of, we're going to roll into news time after that. It's going to be national, local update on the weather forecast, and you and I get back into it again. 888-97 Woods is the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Got something to say? Call 888-97-WOODS or chat with Glenn on the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app from K2 Radio.
$7:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Monday, so rinse and repeat. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Oh, I did promise I was going to do this. I have to get to it real quick. It is very important throughout the morning and every single day until this is all over. I'll take a look at what's happening with the fires out there. There's good news and bad news all along the way. So first off, what's called the House Draw Fire, which is the big one that's between KC and up in Buffalo, and actually kind of moving toward even Midwest area. All right. This is a big sucker. So far, 174,702 acres, but now 88% contained. That's good, and that's a huge part of the fight, just to contain it so it stays where it is and burns itself out. Big part. They've done a lot of work on that. Flat Rock Fire, which is over toward Gillette, is 52,599 acres, 35% contained. Above Gillette is the Constitution Fire. That's 24,594 acres, 28% contained. There's some more that are out there, but here's the one that really caught everybody by surprise. So if you go up to the Montana border, this is west of Sheridan, on the Montana-Wyoming border, there was the Remington Fire, which was a small one, which wasn't doing much. And so they didn't pay a whole lot of attention to it. But then all of a sudden the winds pick up, and man, that sucker takes off. It is now across the Montana border, Montana, and is much bigger than the house draw fire. It's 196,387 acres and 0% contained. So, yeah, there's quite a few other smaller fires that are out there, and you can see how these guys are working literally night and day to try to contain these suckers. And hopefully at some point we get some decent rain in here that can help those guys out. We did get some rain over the weekend, but I was watching the radar getting frustrated. Every time some rain wanted to move up into that area, it just would stop short of it. And so hopefully we got a few days here of cool weather. It does get drier again. The air does, the humidity. And then we get some more moisture in the atmosphere that might be able to do something. So it will be a while that they're going to be fighting out there. But it's good that some of those fires are so well contained. A lot of property damage has been done as far as homes and so on out in the area. Nice thing is it's sparsely populated. I don't know the damage yet to livestock, though most of it has been rescued out of the area, and I don't know the damage yet to wildlife in that area, although I know there has been some. But all I can do is say at some point when we get the numbers in, I'll let you know what they are. In the meantime, it's all hands on deck here in the state of Wyoming, as every possible fire agency that is free to do so has gone out there to fight this thing, and farmers and ranchers in the area that, and a lot of these guys have big equipment. They can go out there and cut fire lines, and they're out there doing the same thing. So it really is all hands on deck in the entire area. And as I get more information, I'll let you know. All right. A new study. After abandoning Joe Biden, the story says, the leftist media unapologetically promoted Kamala Harris with 84% positive coverage, while trashing Donald Trump with 89% negative coverage. So Harris gets 84% positive coverage in the news. Trump gets 89% negative coverage. And it's not just television, like CNN and MSNBC. Think of all the different former newspapers, because not many people are reading actual paper anymore, but you know what I mean. Media organizations like that, magazines like that as well. That's where most of the coverage is coming from right now. Now, does that always have an effect? Sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it actually does have an effect. But it's mostly with the low information voter and what they see. That's where we're at right now with the coverage. I do like, though, that when I take a look at the kind of ads that Trump is putting out, there's two types mainly. One is just play Kamala Harris's words. Just let her talk. And that ad is brought to you by the Trump campaign. And let people see her record, what she's said in the past. That's all you have to do. And then whenever Trump shows up on a commercial, whether it's a voiceover or he's actually on the commercial, it shows him looking very presidential. It's a good tactic. So far, though, Harris hasn't done any press conferences yet, and the ads lack a lot of substance. Now, that's another way to fight this is through the ads. We'll see how that works. Just because Trump, we've also seen this in the past, has, and he always does, whenever he has a rally, a lot of people show up. And not so much with the Harris campaign, but that and the polls have nothing to do with what's actually going to happen on Election Day. So hang in there. We got a long way to go.
Ladies and gentlemen, words of wisdom from Kamala Harris.
And it's because of what you did then. So I'm here to ask you to do what you know how to do, because when you do what you do on all of these issues, the American people win.
Now, Glenn Woods fits in your pocket with the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
Substance use. So talk with your kids about these issues and involve the members of your community to help keep your kids safe. Because when you talk, they hear you. For more information, visit talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
7:46 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to talk to Don Day weather. Don, I was watching the rain this weekend, especially yesterday, and we got some good showers across Wyoming. I kept waiting for some of those big bands of showers to get up to northeast Wyoming. It never made it.
It did in some spots. Now, we did have some rain around Sheridan and Buffalo, and we also saw some rain right across the Montana border over the Remington fire. Although I think they have a better chance today and into tonight to see some rain up there. The thunderstorms are going to be a little bit more scattered along the I-90 corridor from Buffalo to Gillette to Sundance. So there are some chances there today into tonight. In fact, they even have a flash flood watch in effect for those areas because of heavy rain over the burn scars. So there you go. But after today, the chances of rain up there and over the areas that are experiencing fires is very low. So this is kind of the last chance for a bit.
And we get a little bit of a yo-yo in the temperatures over the next week.
We do. We're going to be cool today. In fact, I would hazard to guess there's probably some snowflakes mixed in with the showers over the high Wind River Mountains right now as we speak. And some of that cool air will overspread the state today. But then tomorrow and especially Wednesday, they go up. Then we have a front. Temperatures go down Thursday and Friday. And with these fronts, Glenn, the air behind them is pretty dry.
See, that's the unfortunate part. Although we're hoping, and I'll hold off because I know we got a few days, but there's a long weekend coming up there. So we're hoping you've programmed in something really nice.
I'm doing my best because the requests are already coming in.
Piling up. All right. Thank you, Don. Appreciate it. And I'll keep talking with Don Day when it comes to the weather forecast with the fires. I mean, there's some good news in there, but there's some bad news too. So it's a mixed bag. Off we go to the ice box where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, like you, I was in Lander this weekend.
Yes,
right?
I was in Lander also.
So I was up at the airport as you're at the golf course, which is right next to the airport.
You know what? I didn't realize that until I left.
Yes.
I go, oh, it's right there.
And the other thing I noticed is Lander is one of those airports where as I take off from there's a golf course in case I have an emergency on takeoff. That's nice. Yeah, there's places to land.
It's right there, yeah.
But there's also a graveyard and a hospital right there. So it's very convenient.
Yeah, you can just do all three and you'll be within like a square mile.
I have a golf course I can land on. If I blow it, I can go to the hospital. If I die, there's the graveyard. Thank you, Lander, for thinking of everything. All right, now, and there was a guy. The reason I was there, besides the fly-in and drive-in, is there's a gentleman who was trained here in Casper, but he's now an airplane mechanic.
Okay.
And he took over ownership of one of their big hangars and decided to invite over 100 people for a grand opening. It's a really great show, and he's going to feed everybody. Now, he's promised everybody steak and potatoes.
For 100 people.
Now, if you're going to do this...
You need 100 steaks.
Yes.
And 200 potatoes.
Okay, now...
And 200 forks.
Oh,
and
yeah.
100 knives.
Uh-huh.
And some spoons.
Now, how are you going to cook all of those steaks in a timely manner? So imagine, how people do a turkey on Thanksgiving when they sort of put it and deep fry it?
Yeah.
Okay. So he's got a big cauldron, and underneath it he's got a fire from a propane burner, keeping it at an exact temperature. I have pictures of this, Frank. You got to see it. It's on the Wake Up Wyoming website. I even have video of it. So he takes a pitchfork, and he puts several steaks on the pitchfork, and walks over and puts it in the cauldron with the hot oil. And it is cooked to perfection in a very short period of time.
Really?
Because he knows exactly how hot to get the oil and exactly how long to keep the steaks in. So then he takes the steaks out of the cauldron on the pitchfork, walks over to a table where there's a guy who's taking them off the pitchfork and cutting them into nice, slices so everybody can get like sliced up steak. Really, And then he goes back over to the other table and puts more on the pitchfork and walks over and dunks all of that into the cauldron. Pitchfork steak.
Yeah, the most important part is the pitchfork.
Yes. Now, I've never seen...
I'm imagining some guy in a devil suit, with a pitchfork.
That would have been absolutely perfect.
I'll make you a steak.
Absolutely, yeah. Now, people kept asking me how it tasted. It was good meat cooked to perfection. My only complaint is, you like to season and sear a steak.
Yep.
So there wasn't that. But was it cooked to the exact perfect perfection? Absolutely. So if you want to see pictures of how this is done, so you can try it yourself, It's on the Wake Up Wyoming website right now.
Oh, so you can try this at home if you want to. High school football begins this Friday around the state. The 4A groups, 4A teams, will have their first regular season game in week 0. So Cheyenne Central will go to Rock Springs for a 6 o'clock tip-off. Laramie will be in Cheyenne to meet East, also at 6. Thunder Basin and Casper to meet Natrona. That will start at 7 on Friday. Kelly Walsh will be up in Gillette to take on Campbell County, also at 6 o'clock. And Cheyenne South travels to defending 4A champion Sheridan for a 6 o'clock kick on Friday. Our first Wyo Preps high school football poll is out. In 4A, defending champion Sheridan, ranked number 1. Cheyenne East 2, Campbell County 3, Natrona 4, and Thunder Basin 5. In 3A, defending champion Star Valley, the preseason number 1, followed by Cody, Powell, Douglas, Riverton, and Buffalo are tied for 5th. In 2A, Bighorn is the preseason number 1, followed by Lovell, Mountain View, Worland, Cokeville, and Lyman. In 1A, 9-man, Lingle is the preseason number 1, followed by Big Piney, who won it all last year, and Rocky Mountain 3, Pine Bluffs 4, and Southeast 5. And defending champion Burlington are preseason number 1 in 1A 6-man, followed by Little Snake River, Riverside, Encampment, and Casper Christian. The Wyoming Cowboys will start the season on Saturday night in Tempe to meet Arizona State from the Big 12. Now, last season for ASU, they were 3-9 and 2-7 in the Pac-12, and Wyoming was 9-4 and 5-3, 9-4 overall, 5-3 in league play. Cowboys are currently 6.5-point underdogs in the game, but they have enough returning starters to certainly be competitive in this game and may actually win it if they can limit their mistakes. Arizona State, they're in a rebuilding thing. They've got a lot of new players. That is an 8:30 start on Saturday night from Tempe. We'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In the NFL preseason ranks, the Denver Broncos beat the Arizona Cardinals 38-12 yesterday. Bo Nix, the Broncos starting quarterback, did not play. Zach Wilson was in there as quarterback. He was 16-25 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos will open up the season at Seattle on the 8th of September. And that's it in sports.
Did the smoke and fire affect any games?
Far as I wasn't aware of any in the northern part of the state. Like everywhere I went, it was clear skies, and it was really, really strange. I saw a picture from the Gillette fire.
Yeah,
the bottom of the telephone pole, the power pole, was burnt out completely,
hanging there,
and it was hanging by the wires.
Yep. See, there's a lot of pictures coming out that are absolutely amazing. What worried me is if anyone was doing anything up, let's say, in Sheridan or Gillette, could they have continued on with any of those competitions?
If it had been too smoky, I think they would have called it quits right then and there. But as far as I know, I think
everything went on?
Yes, I guess so.
Okay. Well, I do know because I left Lander on Sunday. So there is smoke that's up in the Du Bois area, and that smoke did come all the way down to Riverton. But other than that, it's been blowing all north up to Montana. So, sorry, Montana.
Yeah, sorry, Montana.
It's Wake Up Wyoming. Six of time. It's Monday. Rinse and repeat we go. I just got a photo sent to me from a YDOT camera, but it was sent to me by regional weatherman Don Day. It's of Togety Pass, where it's snowing right now.
Today's show is sponsored by Earwax Colored Hearing Aids. The perfect camouflage for hearing better.
And you can get them scented, too, in Earwax if you want. It's open phones. It's the most dangerous time of this program every day.
Warning. Wake Up Wyoming is about to enter daily open phones. This means that anyone will be allowed to call in and talk about anything. I mean, imagine if we actually allowed you on air to say anything you wanted. Scary, right? Well, we're just that brand of crazy. If you are offended by what other people think, then maybe you want to tune out right about now. Just saying. If you should choose to call, just remember, the more funny and interesting you are, the longer Glenn will keep you on the line. Obnoxious jerks will be hung up on. Dave, all right, strap in. and let's do this thing.
888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. You can talk about what I'm talking about. Change the subject. Fine by me. Good that Tokenie Pass is getting it's a light dusting of snow, but you can be seen by the cameras, by the WYDOT cameras. So, yeah, a little bit of snow coming down there, and maybe up even in the Bighorns, just a slight bit of snow at those higher elevations. And I stepped out. The radio studio is here. I can open up a back door, and I'm up in the air about almost one floor because of the cellar, And I'm looking out the back door, and the Platte River is right behind the radio studios there. And I'm looking at these trees that run along the Platte River, and there's just this little hint, just a touch of yellow in the green leaves. So we're already getting there. I'll post that picture, maybe some others of what's happening up there at Tokenie Pass with just that little bit of snow coming down. That's amazing. All right, 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. I'm going to do another quick review, and I'll be doing this until the situation's over. I don't have to spend a whole lot of time, but I just want to make sure that the information is out there. As far as what the governor's called out for the fires, all hands on deck, Wyoming resources. And so it's not just different fire departments that are out there, but it's also, there's some federal help that has arrived as well. There's a lot out there. And even any rancher that has big Tonka toys is out there cutting fire lines. And this is mostly in northeastern Wyoming, as you know. Now, between KC and Buffalo is the house draw fire. Here's the good news. I'm looking for the latest information now. Here's what I have. It's burned 174,702 acres, 88% contained. The containment is good. They contain it where it is and let it burn itself out. There might be today a little bit of wet that moves that area, a little bit of rain, we'll see. But then it gets dry for the couple of days after that. Gillette has had its own problems. The Flat Rock fire to the west of Gillette, 52,999 acres, burned, 35% contained. And then there's the Constitution fire above Gillette, which is a little over 24,000 acres and 28% contained. And I want to see if there's any, not yet. Okay. Remington fire, I was hoping for some improvement, but so far, no. That was a small fire it's east of Sheridan, right on the Montana border. And they weren't doing much with it because it was not much of a fire. They have much bigger fish to fry, pardon the pun or expression on that. So they weren't paying attention to it. Then the winds kicked up, and I mean really bad. And now that thing is bigger than the house draw fire at 196,387 acres, moved right up from Wyoming into Montana, 0% contained. So there's a lot of work that those guys have to do. And there's more information on the Wake Up Wyoming site. Miss Mary will alert that out if you have the Wake Up Wyoming app. All right. You can change the subject on me at this point if you want. 888-97 Woods, the phone number, 888-97-WOODS. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know, we are living in the end times.
So put on your respirator and let's fix that generator. While we're out, we'll mend our fences too. See, I'm not afraid of dying, just got reasons for surviving. I want one more day in the apocalypse with you.
So I mentioned this on Friday's program, but I got an update from then. Have you noticed as you watch the Harris campaign, and it was the Biden campaign too, but now it's the Harris campaign, how much of a mention of climate change have you heard? All right. Now, I was noticing it this past Friday, but since then, some other people have called attention to it as well and said, hey, she's not really talking a whole lot about it, mainly because when it's polled, it doesn't do well as an issue. Despite what you see in news media, the constant drumbeat, and I think this is part of the reason that it's died as an issue is because it just gets beaten to death. When voters are asked to list priorities of what they will vote for, only about 1% of the population even mentions climate change. And then when they do, most of those people don't list it as a really big priority. It's way down on the list. The story in front of me says, Why Democrats are so quiet about climate change right now. Democrat Party leaders appear to have calculated that climate science, as they call it, is not really a safe strategy right now. Voters just don't think of this as really important. And so Democrats have been science as on it. They're just quiet. Now, my thought is, if it's that big of a deal, if the end times are really coming, I mean, we better get our act together and do something. If we don't, it's over. We have just a few years left, before we reach a tipping point. Well, the latest tipping point, because there's always the latest tipping point. Every time we pass that last tipping point, there's a new tipping point. Remember, Al Gore said we have 10 years to solve this, and we reach a tipping point, and then it's over. There's nothing we can do about it. Well, we passed that 10 years about 9 years ago or so. So the latest tipping point, they mentioned a 12-year tipping point, and I think we have 7 years. I'll have to check. I think it might be 7 years ago on that. But we better hurry up, according to them, because any time now we reach a tipping point, just go ask Climate Extinction. Oh, I'm sorry. The name of the group is Extinction Rebellion. Just go ask them. We have just no time left at all. If that's the case, like we keep getting told, then why is this not the major issue of this campaign? So Harrison Waltz, the story says, frame climate change in the context of freedom as a glancing reference to it. So they reference it, but they don't really spend any time on it. Climate is missing from climate groups on a $55 million ad splurge as Democrat allies, even climate change activists that are sending money to the Democrats or running ads for the Democrats, barely mention it as a topic. Which brings me back to what I was saying at the beginning of this. If it's such a big deal, if the end is any time now, and we better hurry up before we reach that tipping point, then why isn't that the number one issue that they're talking about? All right, well, it doesn't poll well, so they're not mentioning it that much. So that tells you whether they really think this is real or not. Remember, I've said before, people like Harris and Biden and Obama, to name a few, but we can go into Leonardo DiCaprio and Al Gore and so many other people. The reason that I don't think that they believe what they're saying is look at the way they live. If they believed what they were saying, they would all live with a much smaller carbon footprint. But they live large, really large. So do they really believe what they're saying? I don't think they do. If they're willing to also not mention it while campaigning because they think it won't get them elected and it's not that big of a deal, then once again, I don't think that they really believe what they're saying. If it's the issue that they can win on, it'll be top of the ticket. If they can't win, then who cares? Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
What would you do if I broke in your house?
Now, hold on just a minute, Skittles. We protect ourselves with pit bulls and pew-pews, and the real question is which one of them's going to get you first? Because I be diddly dad burn. We get up too early, stay up too late, and work too damn hard to be letting somebody who looks like they tasted the rainbow come in and take our stuff. No, honey, we just soon send your soul to Jesus and let him sort it out. You know what I mean?
The best talk show host in the state, within his price range. Tune in to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods, weekdays at 6.
8:21's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Ladies and gentlemen, your favorite song.
Well, I like guns. I like the way they look. I like the shiny steel and the polished wood. I don't care if they're big or small. If they're for sale, well, hell, I want them all. I like guns. I like guns. I like guns.
I bring this up because of a non-gun story. Once again, I bring you back to UK, and I knew someone who from the UK who laughed at me the first time I told him this. They have done all they could over there to not allow citizens to own guns. You can own a few things for hunting, stuff like that, but mostly people can't own guns. And yet the murder rate did not go down, it went up. People started stabbing each other. And this guy laughed at me and told me that I was just making that up and it wasn't true. Fact of the matter is the murder rate has increased because of stabbings. Here's the latest. At least 3 people, the story says, were stabbed during the opening day of the Notting Hill Carnival in London on Sunday, with one still listed in life-threatening condition, according to the city's police. London Metropolitan Police said they were aware of 3 stabbings, one which involved a 32-year-old woman who was hospitalized, life-threatening injuries. Also stabbed a 29-year-old man, 24-year-old man, the former of whom was listed, again, non-threatening conditions. Police were awaiting the conditions of them for more information. Quote, hundreds of thousands of people came to Notting Hill for a carnival to enjoy fantastic celebration. Our officers have been on duty working to keep them safe as part of a very carefully planned policing operation. Regrettably, a minority came to commit and engage in violence. Police said 15 officers were assaulted when things turned violent, though none of the officers sustained any injuries. Police made 90 arrests. 10 people were arrested for assaulting emergency workers, 18 for possession of offensive weapons, or I should say offensive weapons. 4 for sexual offenses. It doesn't say what that is. 1 for theft, 1 for robbery, 6 for assault, 1 for public order offenses, 8 for possession of drugs with distribution intent, and 30 for possession of drugs. 4 were arrested for which possession of nitrous oxide. I'd never heard of that before. Ahead of the carnival, police announced they had been authorized to order the removal of face coverings. So, yeah, well, for those people who still want to wear masks because they're worried about COVID, well, even in some cities here in America, they're working up rules because the fact of the matter is a lot of crimes are committed by people wearing face masks to hide themselves from cameras, which are the same face masks used by people who are still afraid of COVID. So the Notting Hill Carnival attracts hundreds of thousands of revelers, it says, each year who pack the street west of London for one of the world's biggest celebrations of... Now, see, this part is cultural appropriation of Caribbean music and culture. You're not allowed to do that. That's cultural appropriation. But all right. Carnival traces its history back to 1958, when a human rights activist began organizing the gathering to unify the community in a series of racist attacks against people there. Well, apparently, though, that's not working really well, especially when it comes to the knives. Launched in 1964, steel bands started to show up. The thing just kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger. Okay. So get back to what I was originally going on about this. Here, once again, they get rid of all the guns in hopes of reducing violence. Does it look like the guns, besides the stabbings, does it sound, after everything I just read there, as if violence was reduced? You can't even go to a carnival celebration like this without all sorts of violence, showing you that the violence has nothing to do with the weapons they chose. Absolutely nothing. People were arrested for all sorts of different things. And the violence that occurred there had absolutely nothing to do with the weapons that they chose. Take away the guns, they'll use knives. Take away the knives, they'll find clubs. I mean, on and on it goes. People will find a way to do all sorts of different acts of violence, whatever they can pick up and use. And the UK proves this. But now, to go back to what had happened to me a few years back, when I first read that violence had gone up in the UK, and it was knife attacks. Again, someone I know who lives out there was laughing at me. That's not true. Well, it's in all of your media. And by the way, the government there in the UK for a while had tried, as if this was going to be a solution. They set up drop boxes around their cities and towns and so on for knives. Drop boxes for knives. So if you go ahead and turn in your knives, because you know people with bad intentions are going to go turn in their knives. You know they are. Right? And that'll solve everything? Or is it going to be that the people with good intentions that are naive might turn in a few knives, but that's about all. Much like, let's get back to the United States, Kamala Harris in the past has talked about a mandatory gun buyback program, which would do what, really, to solve any kind of violent crime in America? And the answer would be the same. Absolutely nothing, because it doesn't look at the real core issue. The issue is not the weapon that the person has. I don't care what weapon they have. The issue is not about the weapon they have. The issue is about their intent and how intent are they on committing this kind of an act. So what we're looking to solve the problem here is finding people who have violent intentions and habits. I can even throw that out. Finding where they are, what to do about them. Solve that, which is not easy to solve, and you've solved your problem. Taking away whatever they might use as a weapon, well, they'll just pick up something else or invent something else, whatever it might be. So you're not going to stop. And, oh, by the way, in the UK and in Europe and even here in the United States, people have rented trucks and driven through large crowds. That could have happened at this carnival, too. Are we then going to ban trucks or any other kind of vehicle that could be used to ram people and take them out as much as possible? I know they're not willing to do that. Therefore, what are they really doing to solve the problem? Nothing so far, really. Coming up on local news, update on the weather forecast. Then you and I get back into it again with more open phones. 888-97 Woods, the phone number. That's 888-97-WOODS. Talking about what I'm talking about, or change the subject. I'll just kind of roll with the whole thing. As the morning goes on, if I get any more information on the fires and how people are dealing with them, or the size of the fires, or whatever, I'll let you know as soon as that information comes in. Let's Wake Up Wyoming.
Honestly, he's just happy to be here. Catch Glenn Woods on Wake Up Wyoming, weekdays at 6 on air, on Alexa, and on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
8:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. So I just got done telling you guys a story about over in the UK, how they had an event. It's a carnival they have every year at this time. And yes, some people got stabbed. There were multiple stabbings. And of course, they have very strict gun laws, which means stabbings are on the rise and the murder rate's actually gone up. Now, back here in the United States, University of Wyoming, reading from WildFile, students at the University of Wyoming may eventually be able to discreetly pack heat, the story says, as leaders consider allowing concealed carry on campus. This has been a big fight for a while, so this is a massive deal. University on Friday invited student, faculty, and staff and the public to provide feedback on the idea on an online forum September 26, which is today. Governor Mark Gordon vetoed legislation this year that would have required that concealed carry be allowed at most facilities overseen by the state, including grade schools and the university, reasoning it violated the state constitution guaranteed separation of powers. So, quote, if enacted, House Enrolled Act number 49 would require every one of our unique state facilities, such as the University of Wyoming, Wyoming State Hospital, or the Wyoming Boys School, to receive legislative approval to restrict carrying firearms or even to set policies as practical as proper weapon storage, said the governor. However, in his veto letter to the Secretary of State, Gordon also wrote, this is not a veto of the notion of repealing gun-free zone. It is a request to approach this topic more transparently. So again, here's a quote. With the authority already in place to address the issue on a local level, I call on school districts, community college, and university to take up these difficult conversations. Again, establish policies that would allow safe carry of concealed weapons within their facilities, the governor wrote. So that's what the discussion that's supposed to happen today at the University of Wyoming. That's what's going on. The directive spawned a conversation now being led by UW, according to Wildfile in a press release. So the announcement comes on the heels of a separate public meeting that examined the possibility of concealed carry at the Wyoming Capitol and attached extension facilities. The meeting, also held by Governor Gordon, didn't attract much in-person participation, but public comment, a lot of it came through online. So further discussion about concealed carry at the Capitol is planned for the Joint Judiciary Committee September 19th. Most of that's going to be held virtually. The legality of the university's gun rules has come up for debate since, 2018. A man brought a gun on campus to purposefully challenge the school's restrictions on gun possession. Now, he ultimately lost his case with a state judge, concluding UW is allowed under the law at the time to craft its own rules. Those people who are on the other side said, no, they're not. To participate in the UW Board of Trustees meeting, which again is today, UW press release urged comments to arrive early, put your name on a sign sheet, and know what the comments are limited to. A very short period, about 3 minutes or so. So, okay, that's what's happening now at the University of Wyoming involving guns. Now, while I'm there, also University of Wyoming is replacing multicultural affairs after lawmakers went after DEI efforts. Now, this is something I've been out for a long time, had been advocating. First off, I've been saying to save money at University of Wyoming and to make it a much nicer campus to be on, get rid of the Office of Diversity and Inclusion. Just get rid of it at UW. Just defund it, get rid of it. It's not necessary. It's not needed. In fact, it causes problems. While we're at it, what about DEI? Now, this is actually being done, and after years of complaining, I'm happy to see it, although I'm sure nobody was listening to me on this. But all right, University of Wyoming is replacing its Office of Multicultural Affairs with the Pokes. A Center for Community Resources school president announced this last Thursday. The change of the office has existed. It's been there for 30 years. Comes months after, the story says, state lawmakers barred Wyoming's lone four-year public university from spending state dollars on diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts. In response to the legislative mandate, the school trustees voted in May to close its DEI office and either reassign certain staff or get rid of them, which in case I would have just said, thank you very much for whatever you were doing and goodbye, and just save the money instead of reassigning them to some other place. So the UW president, N. Seidel, wrote in an email Thursday to students and staff that the repurposed facility will provide a centralized location where all students and their families can learn about the institution, the community, the resources, planning, basic things like that. Quote, the centers will serve as a conduit for education materials, support in areas such as food, housing, security, family support, general living skills, stuff like that. And this is from Wildfile that I'm reading. In preparation for the change, which was announced 4 days before the fall semester began, pride flags and art disappeared from the hallway and rooms where the office had operated. Fort Laramie Pride Fest co-chair says it now looks sterile compared to colorful, the way he personally liked it. So he said having that resource was very important to the identity of certain students, which I agree. I don't think so. I don't think you need it at all. You're there to learn, to get an education. Focus on that. As someone who's been a manager of various places, radio and retail, I always just ask for one simple thing from the employees. When you show up here, remember what your job is and focus on that. And any other kind of outside drama is left outside. I need you focused on the task. If you want to get involved in all sorts of drama, do that somewhere else. But when you're here and on the clock, you're focused on your job. Show up, do your job, and leave. And I'll pay you for that. So if somebody's going to University of Wyoming, whatever their degree they're pursuing, show up and focus on that. And whatever personal drama you usually have around you, which is usually caused by yourself, don't. This is not the time or the place for it. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, all schools should do this. Any grade level, no matter where. Show up on time, get your butt in that classroom, sit down, pay attention, engage in whatever the lesson plan is, and focus on the lesson plan. That goes for the teachers, too. Focus on what the job is. Now, if you want to get involved in all sorts of drama after, go ahead. It's your personal life, and if you feel the need to engage in a cause, for that matter, whatever the cause might be, go ahead. Do that if that's what you want to do. Because it's your life and you're on your own time. You can do whatever you want. But when you're at work or when you're at school, that's what you focus on. And that's what I would stick to if I was an administrator at, I don't care if it was a middle school, high school, or a college, and I found some student wanted to be an activist for whatever cause, I would politely pull that student aside and say, but not here. You're in school to learn, so go do that. And take up these causes that you're passionate about, which you have every right to be passionate about, whatever the cause is, and go do that on your own time. I was that way when I've been a boss, and I would be that way if I was in charge of a school. Keep people focused and on task. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Make your voice heard at 888-97-WOODS. This is AM 1030 K2 Radio.
8:48's the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming, and off we go to the icebox where Frank Gambino is waiting by. Okay, Frank, something happened at a baseball game that will not be repeated for a very long time.
Maybe ever.
And this guy has bragging rights that he will, every time he's with his friends, you're going to have to hear about it. This is a fan that caught 3 foul balls.
Oh, in one game?
In one game.
Amazing.
You should go online and take a look at this, the video of it. And every time he caught one, first off, his chair was just in the right place.
So the ball came to him as opposed to him going for the ball.
Well, there's not many fans up in the stands there. There were a few people around, but not many. And so he had every opportunity to hop over a couple of seats, left or right or whatever, and go ahead and catch those balls. And so it was just, again, perfect place at the perfect time. 18-year-old A's fan.
Oh, well, that says it all right there.
As far as not many people in the stands?
There's nobody there.
Yeah, okay.
The A's don't draw anybody.
Yeah.
You could have the whole lower deck to yourself pretty much.
Sure. Now, he's in an upper deck, but still.
He just kind of walks right over there and picks it up. And
Well, he didn't pick it up. He caught them all.
Oh, he caught them all.
All 3 with his glove.
All right.
And every time he caught one, he was celebrating more than the last one. And the other fans were celebrating with him. And this is all happening on television, too.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
Good for him.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Oh, go watch the videos of this. It's also kind of fun to see as he catches that last one and starts to dance. There's other people dancing with him. Now,
well, okay then.
After I've told you this story, what are the odds that I will ever be able to tell this story again?
What are the odds of somebody catching 3 baseball in one game?
Yes.
I'd have to look it up, but it'd be thousands to 1.
Yeah.
Thousands to 1.
Would have to be. Now, I was impressed. It was a few years ago. You probably remember this. A lady way up in the stands, and the foul ball kind of went up and behind a little bit, and she was on an upper deck. It landed in her beer cup.
Yes. Now, that's even tens of thousands to 1.
Yes. One time you don't mind getting splashed with beer.
That's a pretty expensive beer, I'll tell you that. All right, high school football begins in Wyoming on Friday, and our first Wyo Preps media and coaches poll is out. In 4A, Sheridan is the preseason number 1. They won it all last year, followed by Cheyenne East, Campbell County, Natrona, and Thunder Basin. Defending champion Star Valley is the preseason number 1 in 3A. Cody 2, Powell 3, Douglas 4. Riverton and Buffalo tie for 5th. In 2A, Bighorn is the the preseason number 1, Lovell 2, Mountain View 3, Worland 4, and Cokeville 5. And in 1A 9-man, the preseason number 1 is Lingo Fort Laramie. Defending champion Big Piney is 2nd, Rocky Mountain 3rd, Pine Bluffs 4th, and Southeast. And in 1A 6-man, defending champion Burlington ranked number 1 to start the year, followed by Little Snake River, Riverside, Encampment, and Casper Christian. The 4A schools in week 0, these games count in the standings. Coming up on Friday, Cheyenne Central will be at Rock Springs at 6 p.m. Laramie will be in Cheyenne to meet East, also at 6 p.m. Thunder Basin and Casper to meet Natrona at 7 p.m. Kelly Walsh up in Gillette to meet Campbell County at 6, and Cheyenne South will travel to Sheridan, also at 6 o'clock on Friday. College football, the Wyoming Cowboys will meet Arizona State to start the season on Saturday night in Tempe. The Pokes are 6.5-point underdogs, but they did win 9 games last year and win 5-3 in conference play. They certainly have enough returning starters to be competitive in a game against Arizona State, where the Sun Devils went just 3-9 a year ago and 2-7 in Pac-12 play. Now they've moved over to the Big 12. That is an 8:30 start Mountain Time on Saturday night from Tempe. We'll have that game for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. And in preseason NFL football, the Denver Broncos over the Arizona Cardinals 38-12. Bo Nix, the starting quarterback, did not play in that game. Zach Wilson, 16 of 25 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos will start the season at Seattle on September the 18th. In Major League Baseball, the Colorado Rockies lost to the New York Yankees 10-3. Aaron Judge homered for the Yankees. This is 3 seasons now that he's hit 50 or more home runs. And the Rockies, they're just awful. And we've talked about this, and we're going to stop talking about them because they're so bad. Yeah. They're 19-50 on the road. They will host Miami tonight. That's in sports.
Oh, okay. So they will lose to Miami tonight.
You know what? I think to the point now is we're done with them.
Well, that happened a long time ago.
Well, I mean, not even the mention, unless there's something else, like there's really nothing going on.
Yes.
You know, like everyone took the day off, but they played. You know,
if you want to go watch a free baseball game, you can go see the Rockies.
I'm gonna go not this week,
but
next week to go see the Cubs.
Oh, okay. Now, are you going to boo anybody while you're there?
Well,
you suck a few times.
You know what? I did that at the Cubs game in Chicago.
Well, you're in Chicago, and as the Cubs, you're allowed to yell, "You suck."
Well, yeah, because he did suck. This particular player, he's terrible.
That's Frank having a good time.
Yeah.
All right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business, we got to take care. We're going to roll into news time after that. National local update on the weather forecast. You and I get back into it. It's open phones, by the way. 888-97 Woods. Wake up, Wyoming. In that area, there's and it talks about the Bozeman Trail being out in that area. There's some pictures of the fire as I'm reading the story here. And what is he going to do with all of the sheep? I do know that there's quite a few places where people are bringing sheep and cattle and so on into not just other people's ranches, but even in some areas, there's some places where you have your county fair, stuff like that. He said, I was born and raised in Buffalo. Had hoped that all of the gates and fencing, well, the sheep would just be able to roam and enjoy themselves. What do you do with a fire like this? These are some of the people, and I don't have all the answers as I read through this story. I don't have all the answers to this. I don't know. But I'm going to have to wait to see what the numbers are when it's all said and done. But I do know some ranchers were able to do what they could to get as much as their herd out of there. Again, to either move it to other ranch land or to move their animals, sheep and cattle and so on, to even some areas where you might hold your county fair or wherever they can find some kind of holding pen that's nowhere near these fires. How much got out, I don't know. And I have asked a few times on the air for people who live out there, if you can call in and let us know, please do. I'd love to get you on the air. But I also realize they're kind of busy right now. And so they probably don't have a whole lot of time to deal with, calling in and having a discussion with us when they're dealing with all of what they have to deal out there. I do know, and I've said this before, it's going to be really interesting to see. Fires like this in a prairie do a lot of good in the long run. In the short run, we have to deal with all of this. In the long run, it's nothing but good for the prairie. The nutrients, the carbon, the CO2 that's released into the soil, into the air, is really good. The invasive species get burned off, but the species that are used to living out here, that are meant to live out here, thrive. Late next spring, go into these areas and take a look at what's happening to the grasslands. It's going to be beautiful. Right now, it's devastating. It's going to be beautiful.
Do I point out that it's not cow? Like, hamburger is a pig. Everyone knows ham comes from pig.
Holy Moses on a rocket-powered pogo stick. Bless her heart. Wait till she finds out about buffalo wings. It's going to absolutely blow her damn mind.
Live and local, all across Wyoming. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods on K2 Radio. Join in at 888-97-WOODS or the Wake Up Wyoming mobile app.
9:20 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. It's a Monday as we roll through it. Okay, I got a second climate update today, but this one's a completely different flavor than the first one. Has to do with the state of Florida and what we produce here in the state of Wyoming. But first off, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to imagine yourself as a young person in your college years. You've gone to a club. Loud music, ear-piercing. You're going to have tinnitus the rest of your life. Big screen televisions above your head. Greta's angry face staring down at you as you dance with the crowd. How dare you? Honestly, just look at you. Enjoying life when the end is nigh. No one ever invites her to clubs like these. How dare you? Don't you know that the end is nigh? So let's take a look at it. I have to correct a couple of things in the story. First off, it calls it fossil fuels, and as you know, I'll do organic fuels or something like that, but there is no such thing as a fossil fuel. That doesn't exist. When you look at where these things come from, fossils are not involved. In other words, oil does not come from dinosaurs, as an example, when you actually take a look at where geologists say this stuff comes from. So it says fossil fuels, I'll say organic fuels. Florida's organic fuel resistance. Why the Sunshine State is laughing off the climate hysteria. Story says, Florida, the land of sunshine, palm trees, my home state, by the way. And apparently the most evil of all things, fossil fuels. And if you must listen to Reuters, you think the state was single-handedly bringing about the end, refusing to give up on things like natural gas, as one example. Headline, Florida reverses energy transition by cranking up fossil fuel use. So the article, which is lamenting it in journalism, Florida is a villain in a story where the rest of the country is a hero, apparently, marching toward a green utopia. Here's the kicker. Florida's doing just fine. And all the people who live there know it. So let's break down the absurdity of this thing here. The story, fossil fuels, which they mean organic fuels, workhorse of Florida's energy grid. And here we are in Wyoming, and we're not doing this, but they get some of their energy from us. Natural gas and coal, stuff like that. According to this article, Florida's reliance on organic fuels has actually increased in 2024. More than some think needs it. Well, you can't have a transition if you're using more of it. Quote, Florida reverses energy transition by cranking up, fossil fuel use. The headline wails like this. And it's filled with how could they do this? As if the state had suddenly decided to reverse gravity. Okay, but let's be real here. Organic fuels, particularly natural gas, are the backbone of Florida's energy grid for a very simple reason, and that's they work, it's reliable. When the summer sun is beating down and everybody's cranking up their AC, and again, remember, I grew up there, okay? So summers in Florida can be brutal, not just hot, but very humid. How far down toward the equator are we, right? So when it gets really hot down there, air conditioners are running 24/7, constantly. Gets pretty expensive, too. So you want not just affordable fuel, natural gas is one of them, but something reliable. So when you have particularly hot days, long, hot stretches, and people are using more energy, the energy companies can just grab the knob and crank it up and say, here's more energy for you. Unlike wind and solar, for example, they can't do that. So the article points out that over 80% of Florida's electricity comes from organic fuels. Since the beginning of June, it's the highest share over 3 years. He compares this to the national average of 62.4%, and Texas is 62%. As if somehow that proves that Florida is just an outlier in the worst possible way. So let's be honest here. These are numbers that should make Florida very proud, while the rest of the country toys with unreliable energy. Even here in Wyoming, Florida is ensuring that its citizens have reliable energy. Why can't we do this here in Wyoming, of all places? So the story says renewables, they're not renewable. Again, I reject this every chance they use it. They're not renewable, they're not affordable, they're not reliable. Okay, they're not sustainable. They're not even clean or green. But okay, wind and solar look great on paper, but it sounds like free energy from the sun and kumbaya and no carbon footprint, even though CO2 is good for the planet. Imagine the chaos if millions of Floridians were left in the sweltering heat because the sun decided to take a day off or the wind didn't blow. And it's not like Florida has completely ignored wind and solar. Florida Power and Light, the largest utility in the state, is leading the solar charge, aiming to install about 30 million panels by 2030. But here's the kicker. Florida's leaders know that solar is a supplement, not a substitute. It is fine if an energy company wants to put some solar panels up as just a supplement because the sun's shining and here's some electricity, fine. But it's not a substitute for what should mainly be on the power grid. So the author of this ridiculous article and his fellow climate alarmist from the cult of climate change would have you believe that organic fuels are the devil incarnate, responsible for the every ill that the planet faces. I mean, if a hurricane hits Florida, it's because we were using organic fuels. Simplistic, naive. In his article, this guy bemoans Florida as its dependency on organic fuel has risen from 71% to now 77%. Think about that. They were back in 2023 at 71%. Now it's 77%. So Florida is actually using more than ever before, if you think about it. And they're happy to do so because they want to make sure that people have affordable, reliable, and yes, clean energy, which natural gas does. Okay, off to the phone we go. Here's Judy on there. Morning, Jude.
Hey, good morning. You were just on my subject. In fact, I just picked up a roaster oven that I bought off of Facebook out off of Coal Creek.
Yeah.
And I was visiting with the gentleman that I bought it from, and he said that if he got almost $450,000 for his house, and he invested $250,000 when he bought it and built it. And I mean, it's a nice place, right? $500,000 is really good. And he said that now, if you got a house closer to the windmills, you're not going to get that kind of money.
Right.
And I was looking at him, and I was like, why? He goes, because they're ugly.
Yeah.
They put off a weird vibe to the people that live over there.
Yeah.
And the point I wanted to make on this is I went to the commissioners, and I said, those 9 do not turn. They're not producing anything. Why don't you make them take them down?
Yeah.
And the county commissioner said, well, it's on private property. Chevron owns it. So they can sit there forever. And I'm thinking, you know what? That should have been in the contract.
That should have been, yeah, long time. I think I got a similar answer when I asked them on air about the same thing, and the answer needs to be they need to come down if they're not going to turn and produce electricity. News time, Judy. I got to run to do local news and update on your weather forecast after that. Then you and I get back into it. 888-97 Woods, the phone number 888-97 WOODS. Wake up, Wyoming.
Serious takes on local politics, or something like that. Tune in weekdays 6 to 10 a.m. to Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods.
9:36 the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Okay, before I pick up the next caller here, I gotta pick on her for this. See, Miss Mary, who, by the way, here at the radio stations, besides helping me with this program, we would be lost without her at the rest of the stations, so we all understand how important she is and all she gets done. But she does have her merry moments. Like every so often, she will forget who's on the phone, even though you ever do that? You're talking to someone and you ask them what their name is, and they introduce themselves, and the moment they tell you their name, you forgot their name, right? Mary does that. So she tells me on the line is Doug or Craig or someone like that. He's calling about the fires. So I'm sorry, I have no idea what your name is. Mary forgot.
That's okay, Glenn. It's Wayne.
Wayne, which has nothing to do with Doug or Craig. Okay.
Well, I've had worse Mondays.
Yes, yeah. So, all right, you're calling about the fires. What do you have for me?
Yeah, so this weekend I sent Governor Gordon an email. I haven't heard anything back yet, but my question for him was, with all the livestock and everything being lost up north, why are there 3 C-130s that are configured to fight fires sitting on the ground in Cheyenne?
I do think it has to. Now, I read something about that earlier this morning. When do they call the National Guard in? And the only answer I got, which was not satisfactory to me, is everything has to be used until the last thing is used, and then we call the reserves in, which is the National Guard. So they're the last thing we call in when it gets that bad.
Well, I'm retired National Guard, and they've got the Blackhawks here in the Cheyenne as well. They've got the engineers with their earth movers in Laramie and everything else. It's a state asset. He can call them up anytime he wants to.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't like that
It's not
answer
federal.
either. I didn't like that answer either. He's in charge of it. If it's bad enough, call him in. And I do know, I've watched it happen. I've been at Cheyenne Frontier Days, and at the same time, they have an air show over there at the airport. And I've watched the C-130s do water drops as part of a demonstration, and it is damn impressive. So?
It is.
Call them out.
All right. Well, I'll wait and I'll hear back from the governor, and I'll call you and let you know what he says.
I appreciate it. Thank you. So, okay. So, just so you know, Mary, I will be picking on you for this. It was not Doug or Craig. It was Wayne. That was calling the program. Okay. On that note, another story from Cowboy State Daily. State game and fish agents are preparing for the grim task, the story says, of wildlife carcasses killed by the wildfire. And they have no idea. I'll get to that right away. In this story, they have no idea what the count's going to be. But it's going to be a lot. And of course, right away you think like pronghorn and so on. But if you know the prairies, there's all sorts of other animals out there. Some are suited, can go underground and so on and wait it out. Others can't. The story says, even so, some Wyoming hunters say that while at least a few wildlife casualties are inevitable, they're not too concerned about a fiery big game apocalypse. Here's a quote. I have some good friends who are wildlife firefighters, and they told me stories about coming across burned animals occasionally, but it's not as bad as you might think. In other words, they know how to get out of there. The animals know. And when you think about some of these animals that can run how fast? Quote, but I've never heard of them talk about mass deaths like an apocalypse. It's coming up to the head of the drainage, and you find a pile of 100 dead animals that got trapped and couldn't get away. Wildlife is pretty good at getting out of fire's ways. So it's not what you think. And then it goes on to talk about all of the fires out here and, what's been going on. And actually, and I like this part of the story, again, Cowboy State Daily, fires can make hunting better. Although a short-term outlook in a fire-ravaged area is grim and wildlife will be killed, fires will make things better in the long run. And I'm going to go ahead and republish a story that I put out last time when we had the big fire around Guernsey in that area. I had put out a story about the good that fire does for prairie areas. Well, any area, but we're talking prairie land here. It does a lot of good. It gets rid of all the dead stuff, which is getting in the way of allowing new stuff to grow. It gets rid of those invasive species you wanted to get rid of, so they're gone, allowing native species to take over again. That's all good. And it releases all sorts of nutrients into the soil and the air, including carbon and CO2, which is very necessary for life. And it released it not just out of the live stuff that burned, but all the dead stuff, which was storing CO2. Now that's in the soil and in the air, and that's good. And so when we get to next spring, take a look at the prairie, late spring, go out and take a look at what happens in the prairies out there, and it's just astounding. It's beautiful, frankly. So even according to hunting advocates out there, what you're going to see is just going to be astounding. In the short run, it really is bad for a lot, man and beast. In the long run, this is really a good thing. It's Wake Up Wyoming.
Polish off that tin hat. You'll need it for this one. Wake Up Wyoming with Glenn Woods. Available on demand on the Wake Up Wyoming app.
9:48 is the time. It's Wake Up Wyoming. Off we go to the icebox. Frank Gambino is hanging by. So you probably went through Riverton this weekend, right?
I did, yeah.
Okay. And you notice there's that massive red sumo wrestler protecting the town.
Yeah, I saw that. I wanted to take my picture with him, and then I'm like, then everyone want their picture taken with the red sumo guy.
Well, I wrote up a little story on him, and I got
What's
the name.
What's his name?
I don't, I have to find that out. I didn't get his name. I do know how.
His name is Big.
Really, yes. And Big Red.
Big Red, yes.
Now, even though he's in that sumo position like he's about to start a match, I'm 6'1", and my head only came up to his hairline.
Well, he's a big guy.
Yeah, it gives you an idea of how huge he is. Well bolted down. So for those who don't know, he's on a street corner, and it's this massive red sumo wrestler with black hair. That's a statue in front of a sushi restaurant.
Come in or die.
Yeah, exactly right. Or he will just run out into traffic and crush your car, which, by the way, they do have him bolted down because I figure if the wind knocked him down the road. Can you imagine the last moments before you die, the last thing you saw?
Was a red sumo guy rolling down the road.
Right at your car, yeah. And what would you be thinking at that point?
Now, please move out of the way.
Yeah. Now, when I did the story, unfortunately, I went to their Facebook page. When they first put the thing up, a couple of punks in the middle of the night were able to sort of unbolt the thing and tip it over and abuse it a little bit. They have some pictures of it on street cams, but they got it back up.
Yeah.
And so it's bolted down again. But if you're riding through Riverton, Wyoming, and let's say you're heading toward Lander, so you're heading, that's south, right? And you'll notice it on the left-hand side. And, you should pull over and get a picture taken with it. I didn't get to go into the restaurant. They were closed. But it's I have no idea how to pronounce this, Ichiban. Ichabod? Sounds that way. Japanese Steakhouse in Riverton, Wyoming. You can look that up online, too. I'm impressed. It's nothing else in town comes anywhere close.
No, not it's very unique to Riverton. Let's go that way.
And it's the last place I would expect to see something like this.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
now, there is that. Have you eaten at the Rusty Truck?
Yeah.
Okay, it's great, isn't it? I like the Rusty Truck.
Yeah, I like the outdoor decor.
Yeah.
I think one car. That's one of those rusted jalopies.
Yeah.
They wired up the headlights to work.
Wow. Okay. And for those who don't know, as you're heading south through Riverton toward Lander, on the right side, you'll see a big old Rusty Truck. And that's the Rusty Truck restaurant, which is worth it. However, you expect to see that in Wyoming.
Yes, that's very...
Yeah, that's very Wyoming.
Very Wyoming.
Yeah, in fact, I was mentioning to a lady at the plane and car show, growing up in Florida as I did, as pickup trucks and cars got older, it's so hot, humid, and salty air, cars don't last.
No, it's rust. It is rust central down there.
Yes, but now I come out here and they get a really nice patina on them, and people like to keep that. They think it looks good, and I do too. I think it looks great.
But with the nice thing about Wyoming is that the rust really isn't an issue for the most
Really,
part.
not at all.
I mean, not universally.
No. That patina
But
actually makes it a bit stronger. Who got the idea for a massive red sumo wrestler? That's just brilliant.
Yeah, somebody smart. All right, in 4A high school football, that season starts on Friday. Here we are. Cheyenne Central will travel to Rock Springs in the 4A ranks at 6 o'clock. Laramie will make the short trip over to Cheyenne to meet East, also at 6 at Oakey Blanchard Stadium. Thunder Basin travels to Casper to meet Natrona. That is a 7 o'clock start. Kelly Walsh going to Gillette to take on Campbell County at 6. And Cheyenne South will be at defending champion Sheridan. Our first Wyo Preps football poll is out. And in 4A, defending champion Sheridan is rated first, followed by Cheyenne East, Campbell County, Natrona County, and Thunder Basin. They started in 3A, defending champion Star Valley, the preseason number 1, followed by Cody, Paul, Douglas, and then Riverton and Buffalo tied for 5th. Bighorn is the preseason number 1 in Class 2A with Lovell 2nd, Mountain View 3rd, Worland 4th, Cokeville, Lovell 2nd, Mountain View 3rd, Worland 4th, Cokeville, and Lyman tied for 5th. And in 1A 9-man, Lingo Fort Laramie, the overwhelming choice for the preseason number 1, followed by defending champion Big Piney, and then Rocky Mountain, Pine Bluffs, and Southeast. And in 1A 6-man, Burlington, rated number 1. They won it all last year in 6-man, followed by Little Snake River, Riverside, Encampment, and Casper Christian. The Wyoming Cowboy football team, well, their college football season will start on Saturday night in Tempe, Arizona, taking on Arizona State. Now, the Cowboys are 6.5-point underdogs right now, but they certainly have enough returning talent to be competitive against these guys. And Arizona State wasn't very good last year. They're 3-9 overall and 2-7 in Pac-12 play. Now they've moved over to Big 12 play. And the Cowboys won 9 games, lost 4 last year, and they were 5-3 in league play. That is a 8:30 p.m. start on Saturday from Tempe, and we'll have that for you on K2 Radio in Casper and KOWB in Laramie. In preseason NFL football, the Denver Broncos beating the Arizona Cardinals in the last preseason game, 38-12. Their starting quarterback Bo Nix did not play. They just kind of sat him out. Zach Wilson was in there. He was 16 of 25 for 251 yards and 2 touchdowns. The Broncos opened up the season at Seattle on the 8th of September. That's it in sports.
So, I just posted something. I don't normally post it when I'm on the air, but I had to.
Oh, you had to.
Snow, Togety Pass.
Oh, are you surprised?
No, I'm just thinking that Canada is once again testing its winter machine. And we might have a little bit up in the Bighorns tonight. Okay. Not enough to really stick, but I mean, we'll get the green areas kind of white for a little while. So there you go. There's Canada cranking up the weather machine to see if they're ready for this.
Well, it's not even September yet.
Yeah. So,
oh, boy.
No, or is it? I thought it was September.
Wait, no, today's the 26th of August.
August. Oh, okay.
Isn't it?
I'm in the wrong month.
Me too.
I just kind of lost track this year.
Okay.
Yeah, all right, thank you, Frank. Coming up on some local business we got to take care of. News time. It's Wake Up Wyoming.